Something that everybody's been looking forward to at 2K Fest. We get the opportunity to talk to two of the biggest characters on the development team, and that is, of course, Eric Benish and Mike Wang. I've worked with them for a long time, so let's get into it. With the new release of next-gen consoles, why did you guys feel like it was important to change my player and my career in the way that you did?
Generally speaking, for us, whenever we launch a new console generation, we put, both feet forward. We want to make the best game we can possibly make. That's the history of Visual Concepts. We strive hard to set industry standards with sports video gaming, and the console generation is the perfect opportunity for us to do that.
How do you decide what elements of the game you guys want to change year over year? And how did you consider that in the entire 2K universe where we're shipping on two different consoles?
So I think for us in the gameplay team, we are always just striving for a bar that's super high and one that's probably going to take us many years to accomplish. So for us, it's always a matter of what's the most important thing to accomplish right now and what can we tackle this year. And with the next gen consoles, it gave us so much freedom to be able to add and not have to take things away. And that's due to the extra memory and extra power of the consoles. So for us, it was just being able to dream bigger and blue sky what we wanted to have in the game.
For us, it was just all about giving our gamers the best possible game that we can create, leaving nothing behind and just giving everything we have energy-wise to produce something fun for our fans.
Awesome. Hey, Mike, this question's for you. What additional gameplay elements have been updated for the next-gen consoles?
With gameplay, there are so many things that were added and improved. It's hard to do it all in this one interview because everything was really touched. Every aspect of gameplay, rebounding, passing, catching, movement. But one of the big things that I like to call out is the movement because it feels so much better in the next-gen consoles. And it's just the new foot planting technology that went in, the new motion system that went in, the new dribbler was completely rebuilt. Everything just feels much, much better. So I'm excited for people to get their hands on the sticks.
One of the most tremendous leaps, and it's been talked about in the community since June when we dropped that Zion trailer, is the staggering visual leap in graphics. What was the most important aesthetic change you guys made to the game, and what are you guys most proud of visually?
Obviously visuals is a key part going into next gen. There's a lot of expectation that, oh my gosh, the graphics are going to be so much better. And our company name is Visual Concepts. We pride ourselves on our visuals, and that is something that we continue to do year in, year out. There was a lot of tech, obviously, that went into making this year's game look better. You get higher resolution, you get more memory, so you can do higher res scans. But the scans is something I do want to touch on. Like if you guys saw our recent trailer, the one that had, the Steph Curry, I know you know the one I'm talking about. He looks so darn lifelike. Like that's a good example of a next-gen scan in our game. And what people can expect in NBA 2K21 and during the entirety of this generation as the technology improves and improves.
There's a lot of casual fans that are watching today is, of course, 2K Fest. So I wanted to kind of ask a question about them. Is there anything that the average fan would be surprised of in the development process? We do so much effort behind updates and then parallel pathing with developing next year's game. Can you kind of walk us through that journey just for the average fan?
The development process in an annual title can be really tough. You have about 9 months to make the game. You spend those last few months, fixing bugs, going through the submission process, manufacturing the game. There's this common disbelief that like the game launches tomorrow, so we're gonna finish it yesterday. And it's not like that. Like you have to send the game to physical manufacturers. They have to package it, ship it, get it to stores. Like the lead time in that is very long. We spend months and months after the game finishes adding patches, fixing bugs, adding new content to the game. And during that time, you're also working on next year's game because you only got 9 months and you're already cutting into those 9 months by supporting the previous game. And we've grown to be a very agile company where we can handle that. And it's while it's challenging, like it's a passion. We love it. I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. The team here is dedicated, and I think it shows in our products.
Mike, this one's for you. Obviously, you've done an amazing job on social media, cultivating that community and listening to everybody that talks about gameplay. Can you talk about how important that is, the interaction with the community? Obviously, you and I both have lived in that world, but I'd love to hear it from you.
Oh yeah, I mean, and you know it more than anyone else, Ronnie. It's priceless because we very much view the community as, you know, our designers too, right? So we have a ton of ideas internally. We're all passionate basketball fans and gamers, but no one's as passionate about our game as the 2K community fan base. So I mean, they have so many good ideas, and you know, we've got lists and lists of, you know, a huge wish list that could go on for years. But for us, their feedback is crucial, and I think it's what's made 2K what it is today. You know, all the feedback that they have, all the great ideas that they have. So they got to keep coming and keep pouring them in because it's making the game greater, and it's making us strive for greater things too.
Love that. Anything else that you think the fans will specifically appreciate about gameplay that's kind of a little bit of a nugget, a little bit more like in the weeds? Something that sticks in your mind that you guys worked on in the lab?
Right. A lot of the stuff that comes to mind is the stuff with the AI, and there's some really deep stuff in terms of our AI and our game planning. There's a new game planning engine that intelligently runs the right plays to the right players. The AI is constantly adjusting to you on defense. We completely rewrote a lot of our defense as well for next gen. So it's just, I don't know, just the brains of the game is what sometimes people gloss over and don't really get to appreciate until you really study, you know, study the X's and O's that's going on under the court. But there's so many things. I don't know. There's a lot going on. So.
Eric, same question for the modes. Is there anything that you think people are going to be excited about that they haven't seen or you want them to think about?
I think the amalgamation of everything that's in the city is the best answer for that question, Ronnie. Like, there's so much to do in the city. I think one thing that didn't come through, you know, so far for everyone is that the city isn't just a multiplayer, you know, place this year. Like, there's single player content, there's exploration, there's NPCs that give you quests. There's just a lot to do. There's a lot of new vehicles to ride around in, to explore with, find little secrets in the city. I would encourage people to give that a shot. Even if you're someone who's tried the neighborhood or the parks in the past, maybe it wasn't for you. I think you'll find there's something in the city for you this year. So definitely give it a try.
One of the big things that is back is, of course, the affiliations. You guys, Eric, you got to talk to me about this, and then the concept behind the conversation around our new mayor system. Can you talk about like what the thought process about that is, and how excited you've been with the reaction so far?
Absolutely. Like obviously people have been asking for affiliations for years. Like, we heard you, I promise you. For us here at Visual Concepts, we wanted to deliver it in a new and meaningful way. And the power of the next gen consoles gave us that opportunity to do that with the city. The city is, you know, one large, robust place that houses all 4 rival affiliations who are all competing against each other to run the city. And we just wanted that to be a community-based thing, and that's where the mayors came into play. The mayors do such a good job. Like, their content, we've all seen Troy Dan's content, right? It's hilarious. They do such a good job of wrapping their arms around the community, bringing them in, and that's what the city is. The city is not like, we make the city, we create it, but the city is for you. It's for the players. It's for the community to put your arms around and make it your own place. You know, we just create the sandbox, you populate it, and do whatever you want in it. And that's a very important thing to take home about that experience.
I love that. I mean, you're totally right. The community is going to make the city what it is. Let's talk about, you mentioned a little bit about the casuals versus the hardcore people. Mike, that's going to be something that you think about every single year, like balancing, making sure our new fan and our fan that plays hours and hours and has for years, how we kind of play that game and make it kind of balanced and enjoyable for both. Can you speak to that a little bit and what the thought process there is?
Yeah, and it's something that it's not even every year; it's every day, and then it goes back to the community feedback, right? Like, we need to hear the voices of everybody, and there's such a wide range of gamers who love 2K, and like you're saying, there's players who are going to pick it up for the first time, maybe in their lives this year. We have little kids who play. We have NBA pros who play. We have people who play this game basically their entire waking hours. So it's such a huge, broad spectrum, and it's probably the most difficult part of my job personally, of trying to balance everything. But I think our team does a great job of just taking in all the feedback and giving something for everybody. You know, there's a mode, there's a difficulty setting, there's something for everyone. There's sliders too. There's ways to adjust the game to customize it to your liking. And I think we've come up with a great balance where you can jump in as a new player, or you can jump in as a seasoned vet and have a great experience.
Love that. You mentioned NBA players. Mike, talk about one of your best experiences playing an NBA player at MoCap. I know that you kind of get to jostle with them one-on-one. Can you talk about that a little bit? What have you learned seeing it up close in person that's impacted the game?
Okay, there's two that stick out for me. It was when I first got in the industry. We had a little 3-on-3 session. It was Corey Maggette, Dwight Howard, Sean Livingston, and
that's
Andre
a wide
Iguodala.
swath of play types. That's crazy.
It was crazy. So, but this was like, and Andre was a young guy at this point. And I remember I was standing under the rim, just kind of shagging balls for people. And he came and for some reason just dunked as hard as he could on me. It hit me in the chest. And just to feel that power and see that explosiveness firsthand, like when I was right in the industry, was amazing to see. And the second one that sticks out, obviously, is going to be Steph, because we had a lot of time with him in the studio. There's a lot of talk about the Curry slide. He did that in MoCap against me. He was shooting lights out the entire session. So it was great to see, like, you see him on TV and you're like, man, this guy is amazing. But when you're able to see these athletes up close, personal, Ben Simmons comes to mind too, is another guy who's just like, he rocked the rim. I felt like he was going to break it every time he dunked. But yeah, that's probably the best part of the job. Talking with.
Any of them try to persuade you about their ratings like they do me all day?
Oh no, they don't. They badger. That's all you, Ronnie. I don't have anything
I
to do
just
with
thought
it.
like if you're playing one-on-one of them, it's like he dunks on you. It's like there's my 99 dunk rating, Mike Wayne.
Yeah, it's come up a couple times. I remember one. Who was it? I don't want to call him out on this interview, but he was like, "You gave me this rating for my dribbling, and watch this." And he was just like saucing me up and doing all these moves. I'm like, okay, we'll give you a little bit of a boost here.
One thing, Ronnie, it's really great because when we bring in the NBA players to like MoCap with us, like Mike was saying, like I think our game looks so incredible because they go hard. Like they pretend they're in an NBA game and they're not, doing some acting on the side. Like they go in, and obviously we encourage it because we want them to have that intensity in our game.
Totally.
It's pretty amazing.
We have never had a pro come in who's kind of just like went through the motions. They've all just like jumped in. It's like, whoa, all surprised us by how hard they went.
I mean, they all play the game, so they want their moves to look accurate in the game. I mean, this is like personal to them, which is amazing for us, right?
I mean, that's been the whole cultural shift with 2K and how much the game means to the actual players that play it.
And we're at the point now, Ronnie, 22 years in, where every player grew up playing 2K. You know that? I mean, the further we get down the line, like
I know, dude.
I played it when I was 3.
Yeah. Well, now you do these marketing shoots, and they're like, I played the original Dreamcast. And I'm like, you're a rookie. You're 18, 19 years old. We've been out 22 years.
Right.
It's like we've outspanned your life now. It's pretty crazy.
It's awesome.
Speaking of that long-term look at 2K, what is kind of like the 5-year plan for NBA 2K, especially now that we're heading into the next generation of consoles? Can you speak to that a little bit, obviously without giving the entire sauce away, but just generally, what are you guys thinking about over the next 5 years?
I mean, big picture, it's the same as it always is. We're not the type of game where you can pick it up one year and say, wow, there isn't really anything new in the game this year. Every single year, we're adding something new, something crazy to the game, something that makes our fans want to get off the couch and go buy it or download it because it's 2020. And that plan is going to continue going forward. We want to continue innovating in the sports space. I know Mike wants to continue innovating in the simulation basketball space, and we're going to continue making this game bigger and better every single year. Like that's our promise to you.
Outside of my constant badgering of you guys by email, where do you go to hear from the community? And if players want to give constructive feedback, where are you looking? I know you spend time in Reddit. I know, Eric, with your previous Simballer history, like you always love those forums. Talk to me about where you guys are looking for that feedback.
I've actually gotten some letters. So some kids are still writing letters, like snail mail
letters. So cute. I get those too.
But yeah, for me, there's a lot of different communities, and it's interesting to see how like the Reddit community, like what they prioritize, what Twitter community prioritizes, the YouTubers and how they go about giving us feedback. I still go to a lot of more hardcore, I guess, Sim Nation kind of forums. Operation Sports is still big on my radar. I lurk on a lot of places, and I never like to post, but I like to lurk and listen, because there's so many, like I said before, there's so many different perspectives of how the game should be and what they want, and so we gotta go everywhere for the feedback.
What are some of the wildest suggestions that each of you guys have had from fans? And then were there any that you're like, that's so wild it might just work?
I'll go first. So the wildest suggestion was 2K15. Like, that was when we first added the parks, the Rivet City, Sunset, all that, right? I think it was 2K16. Instantly, we started getting feedback like, we want a world that you can just fly planes around and go to different cities. And we were like, wow, like, we can barely get one in here. And that's the funny thing, is that's a lot of those ideas are what helped shape and mold the city that we have in NBA 2K21 this year.
Yeah, I think that's the wildest suggestions I actually hear are stuff like that. Like, very rarely do I hear a suggestion for gameplay, like on-court gameplay, that we can't do. So that stuff is never wild. It's always like, that's really good feedback and something we're going to try and work on. So there are some wild ideas that I don't want to share now, just because we're actually trying to pursue some that will be, if we can pull it off, will be some really cool features. But yeah, driving in car, people want cars a lot. They want to be able to drive around. They want to have bigger worlds, and those are the wilder ones. But we, sky's the limit. Maybe we'll get there one day.
That's awesome. I gotta ask you one last question, and I've known you guys both over a dozen years, and I don't think I've ever gotten to ask this question. I've always wanted to know, what advice would you give kids who want to be NBA 2K developers? And what advice would you give yourself if you could go back in time and talk to yourself as a kid, knowing what you know now?
The first thing I would say is be respectful to developers. The feedback is so important. Like, people bubble up to the top, the ones who are like respectful and they give constructive feedback. And there's it's easy to hate, right? It's easy to like, this sucks, I don't like this, I don't like this. But when people are like, yeah, I don't like this, but here's something else you could try, or another solution to the problem, that stuff, we're like, wow. Then we start to follow these people, or we just look for their posts, and we look for their suggestions, and usually those are the people that sometimes we'll lose contact. We're in contact with a lot of community members on a regular basis now, who have shown their passion for the game, and they're almost like our side employees. And I wouldn't be surprised we hired. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised we hired some of these people, because that's the best way to find.
Right? We
actually absolutely have.
Yeah. And what advice would you give yourself as a kid if you could go back in time?
Probably. Well, I would probably say study more code, learn to code, and I think that a lot of kids these days are already doing that. They're still, that's just something that a lot of kids are doing. And as kind of the older developer in me, I've learned a lot over the years, but it would be great to have a deeper knowledge of C++.
Making a game the idea is oftentimes the easy part. It's not a pitch the idea and then go mess around for a few months. Like, it's seeing the idea through to completion is a very long process.
And that's probably what you would have told yourself as a kid, right? You just gotta figure out a way to complete a task. Like, that's what we're trying to learn.
Yeah, I mean, in so many ways in life, you can just not finish something and it's okay. But when you're making a game, not finishing is not an option. You have to finish everything, and not just finish it. You have to finish it with quality and with pride, and something that you're proud of, that you invested your time into. So, seeing things through is solid advice to give to anyone who's wants to get here. Like, you got to get to the finish line and get there in a great way.
Well, on behalf of the entire 2K community, you guys have a lot to be proud of, having built these two games, especially during these times, in the way that they have been and the excitement that they've generated. So I just want to thank you guys. I've known you guys a long time. I really appreciate the conversations always. And I know that the community will love this. So thank you guys, Eric and Mike. And it was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Ronnie.